listening to, motherfuckers. It's that time of the week again. Yes, bitch. It is another delicious episode of Old School, New School Comedy Podcast, and I am your trashy ass host with a fucking cunty crass mouth, Christy Miller. Hey, girl. And with me in the studio this week is and one of my oldest friends, and I don't mean age, but I do.
It's both. It's both.
I started in almost 28, so I'm coming on 28 years now. I started at the Comedy Store, and I met this man right when I started, when I was a waitress and an open micer at the Comedy Store, and we kept in touch. We lost touch for years, and I moved to New York, and then we ended up doing shows together, having spots together at clubs in Midtown, and just reconnected our friendship, and it's been great ever since. He's been around for 4,942 years. He came up
cooled, and I started doing stand-up.
Well, you did it before the earth cooled, and then when he did his act, the earth cooled.
Yeah, that's what cooled the earth.
Yeah. He actually came up under the legend Sam Kinison, so this dude has more stories than the Holy Bible. And he also is one of the two owners of a comedy club, a brand new comedy club in Newark, New Jersey, called the Comedy Diner, where I was at this past weekend, which is a super fun club. Go check it out if you're in the beautiful metropolis that is Newark, New Jersey. The Comedy Diner.
Sprawling metropolis of Newark, New Jersey.
The desolate zombie factor of Newark, New Jersey.
Zombie apocalypse.
You guys, this is one of my dearest friends in the whole world. One of the funniest storytellers I've ever known. One of the brilliant comic, Mr. JIM Mendrinos.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you.
I wrote that as I came here because I didn't
really?
know. I didn't. It was all off the cuff. Look at me improving.
Top of the head, man. Improvisational genius.
She should host.
Man, has it been? That's a lot of years we know each other.
I know.
Yeah, and that's back when the store was crazy.
The store was crazy and beginning its dark days. Remember that? The dark decade.
I was gone and back on this coast by the time the dark decade started. So
yeah,
pretty much, because I didn't stay out there much longer after Sam died.
Yeah.
And anytime I was out there because I was writing a TV show or consulting with a TV show. So, yeah. So my time in LA, because I never liked LA.
No, you're not an LA guy. No, you're definitely not an LA guy. You're too not giving a shit about other people's feelings like I am. I was born and raised in California, and people growing up thought in San Francisco were like, what part of Jersey or Brooklyn are you from? I said, San Francisco, the fag part. Where do you want me to say I'm from? I'm not.
I had one really good paying writing job on TV. And, the schedule was Monday through Friday. At Friday, we'd be done by 6 o'clock, and I would literally fly back to New York to do a gig somewhere on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually here at the comic strip, I would do the gig and then fly back for Monday morning on the red eye on Saturday.
You would clock out at 6 from the show, and at 6:01 be in a cab, and at 6:28 be at LAX on a plane back to New York.
Well, no, you're not putting the LA traffic in there. I'd leave at 6. I'd get to LAX at midnight.
The next day.
Yeah. There's a lot of traffic in LAX.
God. I love how they call it freeway because there's no free or way about it. It is a parking lot.
Yeah, it is awful. So, yeah, it was interesting, my time out there, but thankfully beautifully short.
Mm-hmm. But at least I got to meet you on those in and out days.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the clubs out there were just booming. You'd go up at the Improv, where I couldn't get in the Improv in New York City, my home city, but I was working out there.
Yeah, because you were in TV, and New York doesn't give a shit.
Yeah,
New York will tell you to go fuck yourself in
pretty
2 seconds.
So it was fun to shovel them back and forth, and it was a great time to be a comic from the 80s to 90s. Just magical time to be a comic.
It really was. I mean, because I started in 95 and you were going in and out of LA at that time, bouncing in and out. But It was a really great time because even though like the comedy scene took a dive, like the internet was invented,
Yeah.
people were staying home more. There was that one writer strike that we had in 2000 or 99, whatever that was, and nobody was going out. People were staying home. So the Comedy Store, we'd have to beg people to come in, you know, like I'll suck your dick for a 2-drink minimum kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this, even though I was there in the worst decade of the Comedy Store's existence, but I will tell you this, it was probably the greatest learning experience as a young comic to go through hell in the mecca of the Comedy Store. And not be spoiled rotten like these kids are now. The kids today.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. When you were in a showcase club in New York or LA during that time, you'd walk in and there would be legitimate superstars that would be there. Like, you know, the Buddy Hackett story from the Comedy Store in Los Angeles.
Tell us.
Buddy Hackett one time, you know, is in LA. He comes into the Comedy Store. I think I told you this last night. He was drunk as a skunk. I mean, he just like off his rockers drunk. And everyone's looking around like that's Buddy Hackett. And, you know, he's like, what is this place? It's his comedy outside. And they go, oh, it's a comedy club. And he looks around and it's Buddy Hackett, who's used to playing in Vegas. He goes, this is not a comedy club.
This is a dump.
You know, so, and then he proceeds, they said, you want to go up and do a few minutes, and he goes up and he proceeds to do 2 hours of brilliant material, flat out drunk, and
Genius.
in the middle of it, you know, this is how you know somebody is legendary. In the middle of it, Richard Pryor walks into the room,
Of course.
and you know how Mitzi was like, Richard, I'll get him off stage and get you on, and Richard's like, no, I want to watch him. You know, and Richard just sat in the back and watched, and then the two of them went out and talked for hours.
Yeah, that's true Richard Pryor form. For those that didn't get to, I mean, I was lucky enough to get to know him very well, go to his house because of Paul Mooney.
Yeah.
You know, so I got to see the other side of Richard on top of seeing him perform when I first got there Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 8:00 in the OR to help Mitzi.
Yeah.
And then he got too sick and it became like sporadic. But that was true Richard. He loved stand-up comedy.
Yeah, and if there was somebody that he hadn't seen or he hadn't seen in a while, he would sit in the back and watch like a fan. He fanboyed hardcore.
I would watch him fanboy, and he would get so excited when people were really funny or someone came in that he loved. He's like, oh, he was like so into it.
Yeah.
Such a cool dude.
Yeah. And you know what? Brilliant. Just a brilliant performer.
Oh, magical storyteller like this, like even hanging out with him. And he was very sick at that time. But still, like I remember there was this story when one of the nights we went up to his house in Encino, Mooney and I. And this is back, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s. This is before, you know.
Yeah.
I was still living in LA. So it was like the early 2000s. We would go visit him. So we were sitting in his bedroom because he was very sick. So he was bedridden. And this is back when TVs, those big giant consoles that took up a bedroom. He had one of those in the bedroom and he had a rocking chair. So Mooney sat in the rocking chair. Richard's in bed and the TV's playing. So I lied on the bed with Richard. What's he going to do? You know? And I said, and I go, leave it to you, Richard. Even cripple, you're still getting white pussy in your bed. He screamed out loud because he didn't expect me to just come out and say it.
Yeah.
And we were dying. Then we were watching Mannix, and then I was heckling because, you know, I had to work the room.
Well, if you watch Pryor, the magic of Pryor is the simplicity of his humor. When I think it was the Comedy Store anniversary was his last televised appearance, I believe.
Yes, the 20th anniversary special.
Yeah, and
we just had the 50th. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know. And he goes up there and they're talking, and he's doing his bit, and he talks about his trip to Africa.
Oh, that's such a great bit.
And he has this great line where he goes, "I'll run up to the first African I see. Tell me what I look like." And the guy goes, "You look Italian." And just the simplicity of that line. No. Tell me what tribe you think I come from. Oh, you look Italian. It's perfect, and the simplicity that he has always had with construction, delivery, and it was all about what his face read. It was all about the emotion that came out when he delivered the punchline.
He told jokes with the emotions that he wore on his sleeve.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't tell it from he wasn't trying to be clever. He felt his material, and he was so raw on stage emotionally. Not even like as we go up raw as a comic, just bearing our souls or whatever. But he was like very emotional, and everything was just like you felt every emotion, his expressions, his act outs. It's just genius.
I will move you. He would emphasize emotionally in his voice, and it led to an economy of writing.
Yep.
As I study the writing. I love the writing of stand-up.
Yeah, well, you're a brilliant fucking writer. Just
Thank you.
Like I love your storytelling and your writing. It just it still blows my mind after 28 years just to watch you go on a stage and just murder with like you could go up in a dead room and you'll just tell stories and you just murder. It's amazing to watch.
But thank you, and I appreciate the compliment. But just watching what Pryor would do, that emotion, by putting that emotion in there, he was able to cut out sentences and paragraphs and just get to it faster.
Yeah.
And when I started studying comedy and I'm watching, because I started falling in love with comedy watching Freddie Prinze, but I don't have the talent that a Freddie Prinze had. Freddie Prinze was all about charisma. Yeah. I'm just not that charismatic. I'm just not.
Is anybody though?
and then I got to spend a lot of time with Sam, and Sam again is cult of personalities. When you boil it down, Sam had some brilliant stuff, some absolutely brilliant stuff, but most of Sam's laughs came from the fact that he had the tremendous audacity on stage. And then I looked at Pryor, and I'm studying Pryor, at a time when everybody from my generation was like Carlin. Right. I'm looking at Pryor and I'm going, no, this man tells stories. This man has an emotional core. This man has a beginning, a middle, and an end to every one of his bits. That's what I want to do.
Like he's like you would watch like a little mini sitcom or a short like a mini movie with his bits. Like you didn't just watch a man do his comedy. You saw the story and the whole action. Like you brought up the Africa bit when he went to Africa. Yeah. Like when I watch him do that bit, it's like I'm in Africa and I see all the stage becomes the safari, and he's so fucking
and
good.
For me even better, when the other gentleman says you look Italian, you see in his face how disappointed he is. You see the heartbreak. It's brilliant.
He was such a one of a kind, man. And then I was so lucky and fortunate to come up under Paul Mooney. Like that, he took me under his wing. Like in the instant we met, we were like best friends.
Oh, Mooney was fun, especially because a lot of times I was so opposite Mooney politically. So when we worked together, he would just all right, white devil. He would just get right to it. And
never mince words.
And it got to the point where he finally figured out I would intentionally take the opposite point of view just to mess with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it took him like a few months to figure that out. But once he figured it out, then
homie, you're too funny.
And then he would start taking the opposite, like affirmative action should never be, to have me argue the racist point. And it's so fun to watch comics and see what they do, because that personality quirk of Mooney's, the confrontational thing, that's his act. Yeah, that's what he does on stage or did on stage.
He was like we used to call him the professor. Yeah, when he would be in town and at the store doing the late spot, doing the Kinison spot. Yeah, and the professor's here. And the wait staff would be pissed because they'd have to stay late. And I would be excited because my best friend is on stage. He's closing the show. And just when I first started, I would just study him and study how his mannerisms, his delivery, his cadence, his posture, everything I studied, Mooney. And he taught me so much as a young comic because I am so off the cuff. I am so in your face. And I'm very blatant with my punchlines. I don't skate around. I don't describe shit because my head doesn't work that way. Yeah. So I just go like as a 5-year-old would tell you, basically like a giant 5-year-old. with a sassy attitude.
What was fun for me in the discovery of Paul Mooney, because I knew all about Pryor and I'd seen Pryor, and
Right.
Sam made the connection for me in Pryor. But I was hanging out with another one of Sam's buddies, and it wasn't at the Comedy Store. It was at the Comedy and Magic Club in Pasadena. Do you remember that place?
That's in Hermosa Beach.
Thank you.
Ice House is Pasadena.
Ice House is Pasadena. But again, I'm out there one day and I'm with another one of Sam's cohorts, Ron Schock, who, if you ever have the chance to see the little bit that he has on YouTube, possibly the greatest storytelling in the history of storytelling comedians.
Oh my God.
He may be the Babe Ruth of that. And we're out there, and Paul is going to go on stage, and I'm about to leave because it's a long drive back. And Ron's like, "No, you can't leave. You've not seen him, right?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't seen him." Well, then sit down, buckle up. You got to watch him. And I always ask comics this question: when there's a veteran comic who tells me to see another performer, I'm like, "Why? What should I be watching for?" I want to know what it is that they think I should.
Right?
They're like, you need to see somebody that doesn't give a fuck about the reception of the art.
Yep. And that's what I studied with Paul.
And that so succinctly put, you don't give a fuck about the reception of the art. Two things. One, that was Paul Mooney in a nutshell. But number two, what a brilliant takeaway as an artist to watch somebody and go, oh, this is more brilliant when it's selfish. This should be for the artist and not for the audience. That's amazing.
That was one of the big things I learned working with Paul all those years, was the freedom to do what I do on stage and not give a shit about people in the audience, how they're going to take it. Just be myself. And I remember one night I got off stage at Caroline's on Broadway, where we used to work almost every weekend, and I just murdered, and Paul would stand in the back every show and watch me because, I was his kid. So I get off stage. He goes, "Honey, you were brilliant." And I said, "Oh, thanks, honey." And he goes, "Just know this, they're going to want to lynch you." And I go, "What?" He goes, "They're going to want to lynch you, homie. You have a freedom on that stage that they don't have, and they're going to kill you for it."
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah. I mean, when you have those kinds of artists, they're not everyone's cup of tea.
Nope.
As many people hated Paul as loved Paul. As many people hated Sam as loved Sam. In fact, I'd argue more people hated Sam than loved Sam. In the industry more.
Right. Yeah. Industry wise. Yeah. In the industry, I used to yell at Mooney, like, "Dude, shut the fuck up. Get the paycheck and shut up."
Yeah. But I mean, when you see it, it's brilliant to watch a performer do that. And then when you go back and you look at some of the greats, and I mean the immortals, some of them have been lost to time. Like I studied people, like Brother Theodore.
Oh my God. Brother Theodore. Holy shit.
I love some Brother Theodore, or even more obscure, Lord Buckley. And you see how much these guys don't give a fuck. And you sit there and you learn. And I still to this day will break out a pen and paper and take notes. Here's how he did this. This is the construction of this bit. And this is how he's performing it, and break it down that way.
That's amazing. Like, it's true. And it's sad because now, we're from the old days. So, this new school of comics that are out there now, it's a whole different, weird, it's not that it's like, oh, the kids today and when I was your age and all that shit. It is when I was your age, but it's more of how things evolve and generations change and things, because of technology and shit. These kids don't even know their history.
No. And what bothers me is when they don't care to learn. Because as a performer, look, and this is going to be blasphemy, there's not much that Lenny Bruce did that I thought was genius,
right?
Because I saw the people that came after him that learned from him and did it a little better.
And then perfected it. Yeah, of
but
course.
What I did see was I saw, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
somebody had to open a door somewhere, and Lenny did that door.
Yeah. And the people that don't even care or don't even bother anymore. Like I was talking to a young comic, and, after African-American comic, and he's talking about Chris, and he's talking about Dave Chappelle, and of course he's talking about Pryor. And then I said, well, have you watched any Dick Gregory? Who?
Oh, my
You know,
heart just stopped.
And it's
Oh,
like,
Lord Jesus, take me now.
no. You need to study some Dick Gregory. You need to study some Flip Wilson. Is that the guy that did all the shucking and driving stuff? No, he didn't. You actually,
No, you
need to
fucking
go watch
idiot.
him. You know, and if you're a young comic and you're listening to this, you learn from the people that came before you.
Yeah.
If nothing else, they're your college, they're your university.
Well, that's one thing I loved about the Comedy Store, because there's no club in New York or in the country that really has that Comedy Store vibe of like a family. Like,
And respectfully, I kind of disagree with that, because this club was for me.
well, yeah, it was, but it's because the generations have changed and it doesn't hang on. I mean, the beautiful thing about this club with Jeannie and Tommy is that they hang on to it as best they can.
Yeah.
But the comics come and go, though, you know.
Well, that's kind of our job, to come and go. Our
Yeah.
job is to get as much as we can, get to the next level, and get out of the way. You know, when I come back here because this is home. This is family. If you look at my life, the most consistent house I have is that stage.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
You know, and
Mine was the Comedy Store.
but you know, there is a camaraderie that exists. But what's frightening now is I still MC every once in a while, and I'll come and I'll do shows, and I'm like, I know nobody on this lineup. Like, nobody on this lineup. You know, and then I'll come in other nights and I'm there like, I know everybody.
Yeah, like, oh, cool. It's a family affair.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's definitely fun.
No, I love this club. I recorded my album here. I mean, just because I wanted that old school vibe and that real gritty comedy. Things are funny and supposed to be funny and not watered down and shit, you know.
I'm actually thinking, because I'm about to hit 40 years since I started doing stand-up. September 5th, 1983. Wow. Was the first time. And then the first time I was up here, I don't have the exact date memorized, but it was in November of that year. I want to find that date, because it'll be 40 years that I've been in this club, and record a set on that night.
Oh, you have to.
And kind of release it as 40.
Yeah.
Just, that's the name of the special.
I love that.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try.
How can we find out? Like, would Jeannie and Tommy have any records? Because
I have the records at home.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
I am one of those really obsessed people that I've written down every time I've been on stage. I've written down everywhere I've been on stage. You know, who the lineups were as best I can remember. I'm insane.
You're a savant.
No,
That's code
I'm an
word
idiot.
for fucking crazy. Now, I never, I remember the first time I went on stage, like at the Comedy Store. Like, I was writing my little bits, and Freddie Soto, God rest his soul, yelled at me. He goes, "I'm sick of it, Miller. You're going on stage. You've had a couple months to get your 3 minutes together. I'm bringing you up tonight." And I'm like, God damn it. So I went up, and it was fun. It was like I was at a outer body experience. Everybody came upstairs to support. You know, Dom Irera, Carlos Mencia, Rogan, Holtzman, like Dave Edwards. Like, it was like, you know, a fucking alumni night. Like, it was just like having that kind of support, watch you on your first time and cheer you on. And it was just like, it's crazy. But it was December 18th in 1995.
So my first time ever was a clusterfuck. It was okay. I will tell you this story. It's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, I love these.
My sister knew that I was a big fan of comedy, and by that time I had already been writing for Billy Connolly. Right. Because he was getting set to come to the U.S. I was writing for a British newspaper. And the editor, when my job was ending, said, "I have a friend who's a comic who needs somebody to just Americanize some of his material."
Sure.
And I would get on the phone with Billy, and he'd tell me the joke, and I'd go, "Well, what is that?" And he'd go, "That's a this." And I'm there like, "Oh, so this is the word you're going to use."
Yeah.
That literally was my job. I wasn't writing jokes for him.
You were just...
I was just Americanizing his shit.
Of course.
And so, you know, one day I go to him, "I got all these jokes for you. They told me I was going to write for you." And I started rattling off the jokes. And he went, "Those are great jokes. You need to do them." and I'm there like, well, I don't perform. And so my sister says, well, you always wanted to do stand up. For your birthday, for your 19th birthday, I'm going to take you to Catch a Rising Star and you're going to watch
I
a show.
love it. Aw.
So I go to Catch a Rising Star with my sister and her friend and the girl that I'm dating at the time. And we all go and we watch, and, it's a nice night. And I stay the whole night. My sister, back then, shows used to run 4 hours.
Yes.
And my sister's there like, can we go? And I'm there like, nope. Nope.
You got the bug.
Yeah. So then cut to the next week, I waited out the line. I got my number and I go into the club the very next week to try doing my stand-up. And I wrote 5 minutes and I've got it, as anal as I am, I've got it down to within an inch of its life.
Right.
And I don't go on stage till about 12:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, the MC had finished and it was the late night MC. There was a lot of drug use in the clubs back then.
Stop. Shut up. There wasn't.
For lack of a better way of saying it. So
everybody was happy.
Yeah. So the MC, when she's about to bring me up, looks at me, recognizes me from the week before because it's the same MC, but she doesn't remember where she recognizes me from.
Sure.
So she just thinks I'm another comic she's worked with.
Right.
And she goes, do me a favor. I'm going down to the basement while you're on stage. Don't finish till I get back. Just stay on stage. Give you a little extra time. And I start to panic because extra time. No,
I don't even have any time, and you're going to give me extra?
I got 5. I got just 5. She let me up for 15.
Oh my God!
At 12:30 in the morning.
Oh,
and let's just say I did everything I ever wrote. I did everything of Freddie's I could possibly remember.
Oh my God!
I did. At one point I was talking about the jokes and going, "What would it have been better if I did this?" Like I did alternate takes of the joke.
Hilarious.
She brings me up. I get off stage. I go, and it's a fun night. But that 15 minutes in your first spot when you're only supposed to do 5,
eternity.
Oh, you don't realize how long 15 minutes is. And then after that, when I started doing 5-minute spots, after that, it was easy.
Yeah, because you already been through hell.
Yeah,
like you went backwards.
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, because I started at the Comedy Store, I worked my way to the bottom. Because I started at the top. Here I am with the highest echelon of comedians that I'm hanging with and working with, which was Mooney, Dice, had Rogan, we had Mencia, Eddie Griffin, Damon Wayans. All these guys were around me at all times, and I would go on and they would support and totally help. And then as I got better and longer tenure, and then I moved to New York because of Paul Mooney, and then I'm working with him, and then that ends in 2012, and then I realized I ain't shit. I went nowhere. Where the fuck have I been doing for the whole last fucking, last 17 years? I am a nothing. Like, this is terrible.
It's funny because, I was on stage at a club in South Jersey a couple of weeks ago, and it's a glorified bar with a spotlight pointed in a microphone, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, I performed at Radio City. I performed at Madison Square Garden. I've done Lincoln Center, and now I'm here.
Yeah. I always do that. I'm like, I've been in this game 27, 28 years. I've played in theaters and everywhere across. I've opened for the legends, and here I am at this bar show with 8 people that don't even give a fuck. I sucked all the wrong dick. Like, fuck my life.
I literally, when I started, I made a bucket list of venues I wanted to play, and I've got them all but one. There's only one more on that bucket list.
What's the one?
Delacorte Theater in Central Park.
Oh, wow.
Like if HBO said you have your special, you could shoot it anywhere you want, Delacorte Theater, Central Park.
I would have never picked that for you.
Yeah, that
makes sense.
One.
But that makes sense.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, it's so New York.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know. That's why I did my album here, because the comic strip is so New York, because it's been around 50 fucking years.
My special that's on Amazon is from here.
Yeah, it's just the vibe here is everything.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to do my podcast and broadcast it out of here.
Yeah,
but it's like I don't know where I would do a special, but it has to be. I like grit. You know how I am.
Yeah.
I don't like pretty things. I don't like shiny, happy people. I like people with a little. I'm like Mitzi Shore. Oh, tone. You gotta have an edge. Like Mitzi didn't like polished comedy. She didn't like perfect. She didn't like coiffed. She wanted a little rough around the edge and at a dark side. Like she
Mitzi
loved.
didn't like comedy. We need to be honest. We need to admit this. Mitzi was brilliant, and she understood comedy, and she could point out when someone was going to be a genius. But you had to tie Mitzi to the chair to get her to watch a show.
Yeah,
she would chew her arm off to not be in that room.
Yeah,
she didn't like comedy.
I think she did because of her passion for it, but I think she loved us more than the actual art. But I also think she just got burnt out on it.
I think the ex and the child both being comedians kind of just
put a nail in her coffin.
It made her so that it was not special anymore.
Just like with Sammy and Paulie. God, terrible. Dude, I'm the weasel. Oh. Dude, he would call my house. Because, there was time when Mitzi was getting very ill. So we'd call all of us comics work for the store. We all did like phones or, cover booth, a lot, door guys, wait staff. I was the only waitress that could be a comic because we weren't allowed to talk to them. And then I broke that barrier. I love how they left that out of the documentary, but that's okay. I'm not bitter. Guess I am. But so Paulie's like calls me up and I'm like, oh God, it's Paulie. Like, what are you? I go, hello. And he goes, dude, bro, what are you doing, bro? And I'm like, I just got home from the gym. What's up? And he's like, dude, bro, will you come over to Mom's and hang out with her? Because I want to hang out with Coldplay. I'm like, really? You're going to tell people you're hanging out with Coldplay? That's something you're bragging about, bro?
Don't admit that.
And I go, he goes, dude, I'll pay you, bro. I was like, all right, if you'll pay me and make sure I have spots and don't fuck with my spots because, I didn't want to get on his bad side because he would tell his mommy.
He was one of the people that I would do with Sam. I would intentionally, when I call Sam, I would call when he'd answer the phone. I would do an impression of another comic, just to fuck with, because it used to make Sam laugh. And as a 20-year-old kid, making Kinison laugh was like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
In the world. I would do him. I would do Bobcat Goldthwait. I would do Stephen Wright. And, I would do Gilbert, and he would go crazy when I would do Gilbert.
Okay. All right. Right now, we're going to do a phone call. This is a phone call from 28-year-old JIM MENDRINOS to
20-year-old JIM MENDRINOS.
A 3-year-old JIM MENDRINOS to a very famous Sam Kinison.
Sam, it's Gilbert. How are you? Sam, I don't know what I want. I want an emotion. That's what I want. Sam, I want an emotion. I don't know what emotion. I would just do that, and he would be rolling on the other side. I haven't done those voices in years, but he'd be rolling on the other side because, as comics, what makes us laugh? Shitting on other
comics. That's how we get off on each other. It's just, but it's all in fun. But also, too, who would have the balls to call Sam Kinison and imitate another comic just for fun because you just felt like it?
Well, it's because Sam would do that back to me, and he would grab the people that I knew from here. Like he would always call me as Dennis Wolfberg.
Hilarious.
And it was hysterical because first of all, when he would say it's Dennis Wolfberg would never call me in a million years. So I knew it was Sam immediately.
You're like, Sam, could you pick a comic that I might talk to?
Might be
you're fucking up the gag, bro.
Yeah. And he would also let me know, like I tried doing Seinfeld once, and Sam was like, nope. You suck at that one. They're like, I can't do them all good.
Can't be a winner.
I want to tell this Sam story because this is exactly who Kinison was.
Let's do it.
He would get drunk and at a place called the Home Bar on 90th and 2nd Avenue. Okay. And we had the keys to the Home Bar. So the owner would the owner gave me the keys because he looked at me and Sam and went, you're the responsible one. And handed me 20-year-old me.
Little did he know.
the one that wasn't even legal to drink in his place. So he'd hand me the keys and he'd go, just get Sam someplace safe at the end of the night. So we would drink. It would turn into an after hours club at 6 a.m. It would end. At about 7 a.m, Sam and I would wander out, usually with no more tequila left in the place. That was kind of the rule. And I lived at my mom's on 78th and York. So we would literally walk to 78th and York, and he would crash on my couch for an hour or two till he had enough energy to get up. And I think he was staying with Eddie Feldman on the West Side. So he would literally just crash there until he was sober enough to get to the next one. So we would walk in, and now my mother is the most Christian woman you have ever met. Like at St. Monica's Church, her name is on the wall for having donated so much money over the years.
Oh my God.
And Sam would get there, and we would both crash, and my mom would wake up for work, and Sam would pop up like a demented Jack in the Box, like, how are you doing, Mrs. Mendrinos? Can I make you some coffee? He would make her coffee. He would make her breakfast. She thought he was the nicest, sweetest boy of all time. My mother saw me one time, and she never came again because she thought I was too dirty, and I don't like the way you talk about God on stage. Like, she's that level of religion. So I'm here one night at the comic strip, and I'm on the show, and Sam's on the show. And I see my mom, and I said to my mom, it's great that you came to see me. She goes, I didn't know you were on the show. I said, what do you mean? She goes, oh, Sam invited me. He got me free tickets. Oh, God. She came to see Sam, and I said, do you know what Sam does? Do you know what he does on stage? And my mom goes, it'll be fine. Don't even worry about it. She comes, she watches the show. She sits stone-faced for me. And as a comic, you know when there's somebody in the audience, your eye is drawn to them.
Yep.
It's just like 20 years old, like all of the negativity of my childhood coming. I'm having a psychotic fucking episode on stage. 2 more acts go up. Sam goes up. And I see my mom rolling, and he's doing some shit that I know she's offended, and she is rolling. And then afterwards, comes off stage, all hugs, good to see you. I can't wait to see you at the house. And she leaves, and I go to Sam, how do you do that? And he goes, I don't know. I talked to my mom 2 days later, and she goes, oh, you could tell that's just an act. He's a nice boy. And I'm there like, oh, really? Because he and I have both snorted cocaine off the same hooker. No, he's not a nice boy.
I'm your son.
Yeah. Can I get the benefit of the doubt, please?
Can I get like nepotism in this? Is there nepotism? Can I use my nepotism card?
My mother adored him, thought he was brilliantly funny.
You know why? Because he got up and made her coffee and breakfast, and he doted over her. That's why.
Yeah. And
bitches are easy. You know how
never mind that I've been doing that my whole fucking life.
Yeah, but you're the child. You're supposed to. Not a grown-ass man who yells at people in the audience.
And Sam was only doing it so he wouldn't get thrown out.
Exactly, because he's smart.
Yeah.
So brilliant. Oh, my God, I fucking love it. I always like to wrap the show up and end the show. I always like to ask the comics, is there a bit that you've seen a comic do that you went, fuck, I wish I had written that?
So many of them. And when you told me that this question was going to be on here, I'm there like, okay, which one is it? And there's 2 that really stick out to me.
Okay.
And the one is Ron Schock's bit about being, he had a bit about his name and the evolution of his name. And it's, I'm Ron Schock. And that's short for Schock Volvinsky. My family immigrated from that part of Eastern Europe that got raped and killed on a regular basis. And after one particular awful bout of raping and pillaging, my family looked around and went, hey, we should move. And I remember the first time I heard him say that, I'm doubled over in laughter. There's tears crying from my eyes. And I just realized I'm never going to write anything nearly that brilliant. And the other one, and that's the obscure one that I hope comics will go study Ron and see what he does. But the other one that everyone knows, and if you don't know it, you should not be a comic, is Sam Kinison's Move to Where the Food Is.
Oh, and I quote that all. You see what this is? This is sand.
You know, it'll be 1,000 years from now.
Sand.
Move to where the food is.
And that bit is on my list of top 10 bits I wish I had thought of.
And there are so many great bits, it's hard to narrow it down, but those 2 in particular I want. man, I had the same immigrant experience with my family, and I could have come to that, but shock beat me to it. And I've had the same thoughts about world hunger, and Sam beat me to it. Those are the two that I'm probably most jealous of.
Yeah, those definitely. And and my favorite part, and every comic's favorite part, especially because I worked with Paul Mooney for so many years, that Paul would end his sets on his favorite street jokes. He'd take 3 or 4 and he'd Mooney-ize them and crush the room. And as comics in the green room, we love telling street jokes. So what is your go-to?
My favorite one, even after all these years, is the penguin joke.
Tell it.
So there's a guy and he's walking down the street and he's got a penguin with him, and a cop sees him. And he looks at the guy and he runs up to the guy. He goes, "What's that?" The guy goes, "It's my penguin." Cop looks at him and goes, No. You need to get that penguin to the zoo. Take him to the zoo. So the guy goes, "Okay, fine. I'll take him to the zoo. Chill out." He leaves. Next week, same street corner, same cop. Same guy's walking down the street with the penguin. This time the penguin's got sunglasses on. And the cop sees him and he is freaking out. And the cop runs right at beelines to him and goes, "Hey, I thought I told you to take that penguin to the zoo." He goes, "I did. Today we're going to the beach." I so adore that joke. It is stupid and fun.
Today we're going to, that's so cute. I can't. I love, you said you had a couple. What was your other one? Because I know you have a million of them.
There's one that, the first time I heard it was in the 80s from one of the old Catskills comics. And it's a father and son are sitting in a room, and the son goes to Dad, "Dad, can you tell me the difference between theory and reality?" And Dad looks at him and goes, "Go ask your mom if she would sleep with a strange man for $1,000. So the kid goes to his mom and goes, "Mom, would you sleep with a strange man for $1,000? Mom looks at him and she goes, "Yeah, I would." Comes back and he tells Dad, "Mom said she would." He goes, "Go ask your sister the same question." So the kid runs and he asks his sister, "Would you sleep with a strange man for $1,000? And his sister goes, $1,000? Yeah, I would. Kid runs back and he goes, "Dad, yeah, she said yeah too. How's this theory and reality?" He goes, "Well, in theory, we're sitting on $2,000, but in reality, we're living with a couple of whores."
I love that joke. It's such a classic.
I know.
Oh, I fucking love you so much.
Oh,
I'm so glad you're in my life.
We got to do this one again.
Yeah, let's make it a regular thing.
You got it.
All right. So tell everybody wherever you can follow Jim Mendrinos.
On Instagram, you can go to Mendrinos in Exile. In Facebook, it's Jim Mendrinos. And Twitter, it's Jim Mendrinos. Just find me online and shoot me a line, and I will say hello.
Yes, and also don't forget to follow Comedy Diner on Instagram, please. And it's a great comedy club. Go check it out. Call them for showtime availability.
Yep.
And I'll be back out there soon as well, so we'll have to have a big party out there.
Woohoo!
And I love you so much. Thanks for being a part of Old Skool New Skool Comedy Podcast. We record here live, well, kind of live, maybe dead, at the comic strip.
Live to tape. Live to tape.
Live to microchip. Anyway, I love you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode. And we love you, and I'll talk at you next week. Deuces.